Hey everybody, Ben here. I just wanted to come on really quickly and share with you something I created for you that I'm very excited about. I'm a big fan of using our mind and the tools that we can use within it to begin to create our life, our ideal life, the way that we want to. There's many different things that we can do this. And I know that if you're listening to this, you already believe that you have the power to be, do, and have whatever you want. You already believe intuitively that you can create your life by design. But often I find people, as much as they believe it, they keep kind of repeating programs of the past. They keep, self-sabotaging at times, running into the same issues or even having struggles of the same. So maybe, continuing to struggle with money, maybe continuing to struggle in relationships, continuing to struggle in creating the body and the health and fitness that we want, or whatever it might be, maybe your own personal happiness. So what I've done for you is I've created I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes, but a visualization that you can use, a guided visualization to help you achieve your goals. I know there's things that you want. I know there's things that you can have and you can be and you can do. And so I wanted to give you a tool that you can apply in your life to begin to create that in your life and create it in your mind so it begins to show in your outer reality. So if you go to benspangle.com/gift and you can download that visualization for free, the guided visualization on achieving your goals. All right, let's get you back to the show. I'm excited to have you here today. I talk a lot about the way that we think. And the reason I talk so much about the way that we think is, to me, it's one of the starting points of creating everything in our external world. As you're well aware at this point, if you've been following the show, your inner world creates your outer world. And if that's a new idea for you, that's okay. It's the way things work. Your inner world creates your outer world. So the starting point is a thought. Now, it doesn't necessarily work exactly like this all the time because they work in conjunction together. But the primary flow of how our life is created is that our thoughts, what we think about, triggers feelings. And then based on what's going on with our feelings, we act in certain ways. And then based on how we act, this creates results. Now, the reason I say it's not necessarily all the time just that exact flow is that sometimes you might be feeling a certain way and you don't know why. And because you start feeling that way, now you start to think on the same level as that emotion. So let's say you're feeling anxious as an example, or you're feeling fear or worry, but you're not quite sure why. But then all of a sudden you start worrying about things, thinking thoughts about things that to worry about, and then you begin to feel more of that emotion. Or perhaps you take a new action that I guess it would have taken the thought to do so, but you decide with the thought to take a new action. And when you take this new action, you get a positive result. And because of that, you feel differently. And now you feel differently, you're thinking differently. You get the idea. So they do work in conjunction. And where it all starts is the way that we think. So today, what I want to talk to you about is handling negative thinking. Because negative thinking is, I think today, it's probably the biggest plague that we've got. In a world that there's so many amazing things going on and so many incredible things, if you follow the news or a lot of media for any all intensive purposes, you would be led to believe that the world's not a safe place and it's kind of a crazy place. And I know there's pockets of that. So I'm not one of those people that thinks nothing bad ever happens and, life is roses all the time. But I'm also very aware that the way that we think does create our own external reality. And when we allow outside influences like the news, like media, or sometimes even people you follow that maybe are a little negative, or people you hang around that are a little negative, we're allowing that to be deposited into our mind. And it's one of the primary sources of why, we end up with a lot of negative thoughts. But no matter where they come from, how they got there, let's talk about how do we deal with them. What can we do about negative thinking? And, this is coming from a guy, by the way, that I still have negative thoughts. Obviously, it comes up. But to the degree that it is in my life today compared to, let's say, a decade ago, is not even remotely close. I mean, I used to worry about everything. I used to live, worrying about what I said, worrying about what I did that day, worrying about whether I'd have enough money that month, worrying about this, worrying about that, worrying about that. I was negative thoughts all the time, and then once in a while, some positive ones. Now it'd be pretty much the opposite, where some negative thoughts will come up now and then, some worry's still going to creep up now and then, but for the most part, it's pretty optimistic, pretty positive. But how do we deal with negative thoughts? They say today that we have some in the neighborhood of about 50 to 70,000 thoughts. And 90% of the thoughts that we think today were the exact same as yesterday. And 80 to 90% of those are negative for most people. So we're stuck in this loop of thinking the same thoughts we did yesterday, where the majority of them are negative. What do you do? How do you change that? You ever wake up in the morning and you're thinking, man, got to go to work today. Or the minute you get up, you start thinking about all the things you got to do, or all the problems you got to solve, or all the fires you got to put out, or you're laying in bed at night and, you're reviewing what went wrong that day, or how you would have, that person that got angry at you, or how you got angry at them, or whatever it might be. And we're replaying all these situations that happened, and, maybe you can relate. Negative thinking is a habit, and it's an easy habit to adopt and an easy habit to pick up. Positive thinking and optimistic thinking is also a habit, but I will say it's harder to adopt than negative thinking. Again, going back to, we're inundated and surrounded by negativity. It's much easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It's much easier to think negatively than it is positive. It doesn't really take any work to think negatively, but it can take a lot of work to think optimistically and positive. So the first tip I'm going to give you in terms of how we can deal with negative thinking is to audit your environment and to audit the input of your mind. If we really do become what we think about, and we do, then we want to be really careful about, what am I allowing to go into my mind? So audit your environment is things like, what kind of shows are you watching? I'm not the person that says never watch TV. I mean, I watch some movies too, but what kind of stuff are you watching? I used to watch a lot of, I was never into horrors, but I used to watch like a lot of action movies. In every action movie, there's like 500 people that die in the movie, And today, I very rarely, if almost never, I won't watch it. Why? It's just not kind of ideas I want planted in my mind. So I'm of this philosophy today, for the most part, that if I don't want that in my life experience, then I'm not going to allow that in. So I'm pretty careful about the stuff that I watch today, and it wasn't always that way. But it could be what you're watching. It's definitely what you're listening to. I promise you that much. So what are you listening to? Who are you listening to? You listen to that negative family member all the time that's always complaining, always whining, always talking about stuff. You're listening to the negative friend that, you get the idea, right? So we have to audit our environment. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What kind of conversations are you having? Who are you having conversations with? And what kind of conversations are you having? These are all things we want to do to audit our environment. Now, how's your setup in wherever it is you're at right now? Whether that's your bedroom, whether that's your office, whether it's whatever, your car, what's the setup like? The environment. Audit your environment. And not only audit it, but then take a look at, how can I clean that up a bit? I don't necessarily mean physically, although it might be that, but certainly mentally. How can I clean that up? If you're in the habit of watching horror movies, let's say, and I know some people love horror movies. I got some friends of mine, I always bug them about it. I'm like, man, you're crazy. I would never watch that. Stop watching that. But they just love them. It's fine. You love horror movies. That's fine. Think about this idea, though. You think about what's going on in a horror movie. Keep in mind, those thoughts are being deposited straight into your mind. And no wonder. If you watch horror movies, you ever find yourself a little bit scared, I wonder why. Not while you're watching it, but then later in life, I wonder why. Well, that's what's going in. So audit your environment. That's one. And that's kind of more of a moving forward kind of thing. How do we begin to create a better environment so that I can not think so negatively? How do I deal with a negative thought in the moment, though? Now, this is a great question. And there's many different things we can do. And I'm going to give you some of these tools that you could apply in your life for dealing with negative thinking. Number one, right? Let's say you're at a point that a negative thought comes in. One of my favorite is what we call cancel, stop, switch. And the thought comes in and I become aware. And the minute I become aware, the instant I become aware, I'll say cancel. I will literally say cancel in my mind. Cancel, stop, and then switch it for a more empowering thought. And in the act of doing this, if I catch it early enough, I can interrupt the pattern. I can interrupt the thought before I've already gone off the deep end and I'm dwelling on this perceived negativity. Cancel, stop, switch. It's a very simple strategy. It's easy to apply, and it's easy for those thoughts that we can catch early on. But some of these negative thoughts we don't catch early on. Sometimes before we realize it, it's been 10 minutes. It's been half an hour. It's been an hour. It's been a day that we've been steeping in this anger, steeping in this resentment, steeping in this fear, steeping in this guilt, this worry, this doubt. And when you find yourself really caught in a whirlwind of negativity, you know, that loop, right? Where it's just like you keep worrying, you keep, you're fearful of it, you're angry about it, you're resentful, whatever it is. And you just keep ruminating on it. I think that's the word. Maybe that's not the word, but anyways, you keep the thought going. You know what I'm talking about. What do we do then? How can we begin to shift our state? And so there's a few things that I think are just simple, powerful tools. One is often when we're doing this, we're actually stationary. Like often when we're doing it, we might be sitting down, maybe we're laying down, something like that. But if it's really bad, get up and move. You know, you could do some jumping jacks, you could do some push-ups, like change your physical state. Go for a walk. I love going for walks. If I'm having a tough moment or tough hour or whatever, get outside, get some sunlight, get some fresh air. Big difference. Some physical activity. You go for a run, go lift some weights. So those are, change your physical state. I mean, that's something you could do. I'm a big believer in the power of breath work. And that could be as simple as 10 deep inhalations and exhalations. And we begin to calm our nervous system. And it allows us to take better control of our mind. It could be more different styles of breath work you can do too, which there's lots of great teachers. Matter of fact, I'm going to have an interview coming. It might actually be out at the time of this recording, but we're going to have a guy coming on pretty soon that we're going to talk a lot about that. So I'm excited to share that with you. Breathwork's a powerful, powerful way to change your state. I've talked lots in previous episodes about the power of journaling and to actually take a thought. Let's say you're worrying or you're angry or you're fearful or whatever it is in this emotion. I'm feeling guilty about something, and to journal about it. I am feeling X about this, whatever that is. And then you just start to let the thoughts come out. And maybe at this point you're still angry and you're, writing about the person you're angry about and what they did. And that's totally fine, but you're releasing it. You're letting it out, which is awesome. It's a great thing. Sometimes I'll reset my state by jumping into a quick meditation, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever. Sometimes I'll do that. So there's many things that we can do to begin to deal with negative thinking. And depending on the severity of where we're at, depends on the tool we might use. Cancel, stop, and switch is great for catching it before it overtakes you. The journal, for me at this point, I'll probably use it like if it's gotten pretty extreme, The breathing I'll use quite often because I find it's a great way. Getting out for a walk I'll use quite often. So there's so many things we can do to deal with negative thinking. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with today is just a couple questions that might be able to help you as well, especially when you're worrying, especially when you're fearful. One of the reasons why we worry is we've been programmed and we have this evolutionary fear of the root cause of all fears is that I couldn't handle it. So what Susan Jeffers taught in her great book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, was that when you're feeling fear, worry, or doubt, and it comes up, is to ask yourself this question. What's the worst case scenario here? And then, so whatever it is you're worried about, yes, what's the worst case? The worst case is blank. And then the question becomes, okay, well, if that happened, could I handle it? And by the way, the answer is always yes. No matter what it is, no matter what the worst case is, even if the worst case was like, you're worried about you can't pay your mortgage this month or whatever. And then, well, what's the worst? The worst case is I lose my job. Then they take my house and then I lose my job. And then this happens. I'm living on the street. And then one day I die. Well, maybe that is the worst case. I don't know. Maybe that is the worst case, but could it handle it? Well, if it got to that extreme and you were dead, yeah, you could handle it. You'd be dead, you would have been able to handle it, but that's pretty extreme, right? But often the worst case is, okay, well, let's say you're worried about losing your job or not making enough money this month or not being able to pay the bills or you don't get your business the way you want to or whatever it might be. The truth is you can always handle it. And the universe will never give you something you can't handle. Now, right now, sometimes people think, well, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if I can. I promise you, you can. You can. You're stronger than you know. You're more capable than you think. You've got so much more inside of you. You've handled everything up to your life up to this point, and you're going to be able to handle everything forever onward. It's within you to do it. But usually when we ask that question, what's the worst case? Could I handle that if that happened? Usually the answer is, yeah, I could handle it. So if I could handle it, I'm going to stop worrying about it. So what's the worst case? The next thing, and most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, the answer to this next question is no. Is this going to matter 5 years from now? Whatever it is I'm dwelling on. Is this going to matter 5 years from now? And usually the answer is no. So if the answer is no, it's not going to matter 5 years from now, then let's not give it any more attention than it needs. Let's let that go. It ain't going to be an issue 5 years from now. It's not going to matter 5 years from now. Let's let that go. All right. I wanted to give you, it's a short episode today, only about 15 minutes, but I wanted to give you a whole bunch of things that you can begin to apply to deal with negative thinking. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm happy to have you here. If you're new, subscribe. If you're not new and you've been listening for a while, thank you. I do this for you, the listener. I don't do it for me. I do it for you. I want to get this information out to you. I want your life to improve. I want to hear the stories about how you applied this and then something happened. You overcame that negative thought, or all of a sudden you applied this tool and you were able to completely calm yourself down, and then you went into that business deal and you closed it. Or, you and your spouse were getting into a fight and you were dwelling on everything, and then all of a sudden you're able to use a tool and it was awesome with you guys afterwards. I love those stories. I love hearing what's working for you. I love when these things are making a difference in your life. That's why I do this for you. So thank you for being here. I'll see you soon.